Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at NewsNerdSneed on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
Columbia down the way.
And sound effects you've heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, Agent_70 on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads.
What's up, everybody? Co-hosting from the borough of Kings. What's up, y'all?
Brooklyn!
Nice. And you can find this here podcast on the Coastal Podcast Network. That's espn.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal Podcast Network's SoundCloud page.
Make sure to click like, subscribe, and leave us all the positive 5-star reviews, especially on Apple Podcasts, where that stuff really matters.
You can also find us recording mostly every Thursday night, with certain exceptions like tonight, on the Kliq Nation's the Kliq Nation's YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/the Kliq Nation, and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles, like our man Benji Games 2 is doing right now.
What's going on, Benji Games? So again, please click like, subscribe, hit the notification button so that you too will know when we are on live and broadcasting and recording.
Something that should not be going. Do not know. But yeah, folks, we got a good show. We're gonna try to breeze through this. We're starting a little bit late, but we're gonna start off with can't stop that. Great. Books, of course, with Amazing Spider-Man number 43.
So our first book of the night is Amazing Spider-Man number 43. It's written by Zeb Wells with pencils by John Romita Jr., inks by Scott Hanna, colors by Marcio Meniz, and letters by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. Guess what, folks? We are in the home stretch of gang war. We are very much on the precipice of figuring out where all the chips are going to fall. And in this issue, we have, in this corner, one group of bad guys. In this corner, another group of bad guys. And jumping right into the middle of the fray are the heroes gathered by Spider-Man to combat, or at least preserve, as many lives as possible. So what's interesting is this battle's happening in Central Park. So Central Park does in fact play a role in some of the violence and mayhem that ensues. Interestingly, what we see are power moves or power plays being made in this issue by certain factions or certain leaders amongst the gang war. And I'll hand it off to Roddykat to have him share his thoughts.
Oh yeah, actually, and it's funny you should mention that about the Spidey-led group jumping into the fray, because on the side note, there's also the Luke Cage led group in his book that we have not seen in the main part of this. So I don't know if that's just going to be something that's limited to his little side story in gang war, or not, because we still have like one more issue that's coming soon.
Right.
But
who else is running around with Luke Cage? It's Cloak and Dagger.
Jessica Jones.
Oh, Jessica Jones.
And Danny, of course. And there might be somebody else. I can't remember.
Right. And two of those characters, interestingly, we will be talking about in another book. Another book that comes out this week.
Right. In fact, the next book we're going to talk about, but we'll get to that in a second. But so yeah, but basically, as Age of 70 said, yeah, we're starting to kind of close in on Gang War, thank goodness, because it's been going on long enough at this point. The one that's been jockeying for the most position is Madame Mask, and as I've noticed when I looked at this issue on the map that they provide at the beginning of the issue, she certainly has done some work during this thing. But also, I believe she kind of has a part of Spider Woman also, so I don't know if that any of that's going to uh, play into things in that book. But I guess we'll see then. But that being said, yeah, actually, I kind of just wanted to say leave that at that and go into the next book because, as I was telling Agent 70 before the show, there seems to be a potentially strange timeline discrepancy between the two books.
Right. And I was just looking at the reading list, the checklist at the back of the book. And, well, two things to note. One is that Gang War, as we mentioned, is very much coming to an end and will be done with by the end of this month. We also, there are literally two more books checked off this list after we talk about this book from this week. The last book in the checklist is, I guess, sometime in early March when Daredevil Gang War comes out. But the primary story in Gang War will have finished probably in Amazing, at sometime at the end of February. So I guess we're getting 2 issues of Amazing this month, and we have been for a little while.
Right. And I'm sure even after that, there's probably going to be like a little bit of cleanup at the beginning of whatever issue comes after.
Right.
So,
I guess we can roll right into the next book that we're talking about, that being Deadly Hands of Kung Fu Gang War number 3. It's written by Greg Pak, with art by Kaio Mahado, colors by Jim Campbell, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So, as Roddykat said, there's a bit of a discrepancy when it comes to where these books fall in chronological order and relation to each other. In the reading list, in the reading order checklist, Deadly Hands of Kung Fu comes right after what we just read. It doesn't seem like it, though.
Yeah, it's curious as to how they're playing that, because there was a mention to Shang-Chi in Amazing Spider-Man 43, but at the time, if you read it in the order presented, we're kind of curious as to what that means, especially if you've been keeping up with the Shang-Chi Gang War book. Because especially this is where the discrepancy comes in, pretty much the group of actually, now that I think about it, a couple of Luke's crew, or at least one of Luke's crew, is in this book.
Right. Well, Luke and one of Luke's crew are in that's and that's why I understand your the kind of cognitive dissonance we're getting here, because we're led to believe that one comes right after the other, but how do we get to this group kind of assembling?
Right.
So we get it's a mishmash of the people from Spidey's group and from Luke's group, Luke Cage's group. And bottom line, though, is this is the last issue of this particular miniseries, tie-in miniseries, and it kind of shows where Shang-Chi's current status in the Marvel Comics universe, the Marvel universe proper, is in a very tenuous place, because the citizenry that's in Lower Manhattan, where the Five Rings, the Five Weapon Society has their base, they're not exactly trusting of Shang, and there's obviously some like kind of real world allegory going on here as well. I like that Greg Pak ties in something that probably would have been part of Shang-Chi's teachings, which is obviously Sun Tzu's, Art of War.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like that. I was like, oh, you know what? As stereotypical as that is, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like some of the continuity, the nods to continuity that were put in here. Chiefly among them the interaction between Spidey and Shang-Chi.
Right.
I kind of like that, and I'll hand it off to Roddykat with for his thoughts. But this is kind of like a nice little tidy wrap up to this little tangential miniseries.
Yeah. The funny thing about this issue, before we get into the one part of it, is you kind of love how people are still underestimating Shang-Chi, even with all this. And even though we have not, this is not the first time we have seen him and the Five Weapons Society get confronted by the heroes. Because as Agent 79 will recall, and some others may recall, that in the last in the last book that Shang-Chi had, that was pretty much the crux of it, of them finding out and being kind of concerned about it. So there is that still continue to be in the play. But also, like it was said, the whole chess or the whole Art of War / chess 3D chess that Shang-Chi is playing in this was kind of, he was like, okay, so how do you handle everything that's going about you? Well, you just kind of put it all together and and let it all shake out. In one way, like I said, I won't tell it because people want to read it for themselves. But the problem goes back to the potential timeline description, in that at the end of this book, you see, well, two things happen, which I guess in a way could call back to the reference of Shang-Chi in 43, but they're kind of leaving it kind of, leaving it out there like that, because I guess it doesn't matter whatever order you're reading, except for the fact that at the end of the issue, you see Shang-Chi in a place where, given the events of 43, you can see why the reader would ask the same question that was asked or that was mentioned in Amazing Spider-Man 43, but also, well, why wasn't that the case given the end of this issue?
Right.
So I'm like, all right, maybe that's going to get explained in the next in 44, because it seems like Amazing Spider-Man 44 is where most, of not all of the stuff is coming together.
Right.
According to especially the book that I know that should have been read before 43, which we'll get to it in a little bit. But yeah, everything's starting to tie together in. It was just that one little discrepancy that kind of was like, well, okay, that doesn't make that. It was enough to kind of was like, well, wait, what's going on too? Like, and it shouldn't have, because we all know even this whole gang war thing is pretty much on a sliding timeline scale than anything else is going on in the universe, in the Marvel universe at this point. So, that's just kind of a given. But at the same time, like, even within the event itself, like, you would think that would be handled a little bit better than that. Maybe there was a reason why it happened like this, but I don't know. It was just something that stuck out. But all in all, hey, I guess it was a pretty good end to this end issue. I guess probably the best you could hope for as an end to this issue. But maybe not the end of, as Agent 70 says, his status with the rest of the heroes and whatnot. But
Right.
it seems at the time to be of a certain status. For how long, we don't know, because like, when's the next time they're going to confront him, quote unquote, confront him again, about what's going on, and we end up doing this dance again.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? But yeah, that's Deadly Hands of Kung Fu 3. I guess one not tied. What, two more to go out or three more to go technically, but two more aside ones to go. Excuse me, three more, because I forgot about the Daredevil book.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at the checklist. There's one, two. Yeah, there's two more side miniseries
Right.
tangential miniseries that are involved. In terms of regular series, Miles is this week.
Right.
There's
Technically
Spider-Woman,
Spider-Woman.
amazing.
Right.
Yeah, so that's it. Yeah, so that's what's left.
Right.
Yeah, so there's 4 issues after we get done with this week's books.
Right. And wait, the Daredevil one, which was
4 issues.
Yeah.
4 issues. I'm counting the Daredevil because you're going to talk about Miles.
Right. Excuse me, but the Daredevil one is not out yet, right? Or is that one was the last one that came out?
No, that's the last one. That's the last one coming out in March.
Gotcha. Yeah. Because I knew you mentioned that earlier. I was like, maybe I need to catch up on that one. I don't know, but yeah. Either way, we're gonna move on to the last book that we have in common, and that is All of the House of X #2 of I'm not sure what, probably 4.
Yeah, we're guessing 4. It seems logical. So, Fall of the House of X #2 is written by Jared Duggan with art by Lucas Verneck, colors by Brian Valenza, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So, I'm going to start with my very first observation when I read this book. It reads it's kind of a difficult read because it's a little disjointed, because it references things that we have not yet seen published yet. It references books and events that have not been published yet. And so it's a little disjointed. It's a little tough to read if you are like myself, and maybe maybe a little bit like Roddykat when it comes to reading this and knowing that, it's that everything ties together. And it's always tough when publishing schedules kind of muck around with that. And listen, it's not the first time. It won't be the last. It's been an issue in comics that try to tie together since forever. So, it's just one of those things that you have to get used to. Ultimately, though, on its own, this issue does deliver lots of story developments, lots of plot threads being carried forward, and even circled back to. Roddykat mentioned that he, I guess, could now see why a particular story point was brought up with regards to Brew and his mutation that led to, or his the developments that in his story that led to his current status with amongst the Brood collective as a whole. And we did end up circling around back to that, and there's a whole point to that, and that was established here in this issue. Lots of the various side missions that are going on, the various rescue missions that are going on are addressed. There's one particular thing, and I'll hand it off to Roddykat on this note. We all know I do not like Destiny. There is a fake out reveal in this issue that had me just tripping, had me fuming, had me heated just for a split second. And with that, I will hand this off to Roddykat to take this home.
That was the funny part about this, because it's just like, wait, even despite the fact that a couple of panels prior to that, although that could be explained away, kind of showed a power set that Destiny does not have. That it was still funny to kind of get to that point, and hearing Age of 70 get to that point, which I, having worked with him this long, I was like, yeah, I get it. He's like, this is the thing for him, and it's never going to not be a thing. It's almost like me and Ben Foster to a point. But yeah, so this, as Age of 70 kind of was alluding to, like, this issue definitely trades on the fact of whether you've been keeping up with the Krakoan era enough to have caught some of the things on the side, because that the one thing he was just alluding to was kind of was from was from a Rogue and Gambit mini series that they had during the course of this, which comes back into play into this. And the whole Brew thing was from Mordor, I think. I can't remember. I don't remember. Like I said, all this stuff kind of blends together.
Right.
And that has more to do with and actually a character that's running around in Avengers at this point, but and not. But you kind of wonder, well, what does this have anything to do with what's going on in this section of the universe? And this is where we see a lot of that kind of coming together. The whole, I assume that because I know Agent 70 had been reading X-Force fairly recently, so the whole Wolverine and Colossus thing, which I know was a thing because Colossus kind of had a thing kind of going on for a good while, had been resolved.
Right.
So, and that part I didn't know because I haven't been reading X-Force, and like, so just various things that's because that came up in this book was like, okay, when does this happen? What is going on here?
Exactly. So, you know, it's interesting because the next issue of X-Force is not due until next week. So we will probably see that play out.
Right. So if
because I think in Wolverine right now is that Sabretooth story, which is not told in chronological order anyway.
Right.
They already told us that. So, when it comes to you know, seeing how all of this plays out in terms of the other books that are coming out in the next several weeks, we still have Rise of the Powers of 10 coming out next week, X-Force coming out next week, Dead X-Men, Resurrection of Magneto coming out in 2 weeks, Cable in 2 weeks. All right, yeah. So we'll see how this all kind of weaves together.
Right. All right. Wait. Did that first issue of Cable did come out, didn't it?
Yep.
And I don't know. I need to go back and read that. Well, not need, but I kind of want to. So yeah. So if you know, like us and probably many other people, you know, only focused on probably I'm not even sure what that still would be at this point, but the quote unquote main books of the Krakoan era, that would probably be X-Men and probably Immortal, I guess, at this point. X-Men Red was in there also for a time and probably still kind of, but if you're kind of focused on that stuff and didn't skip to some of the stuff on the side or some of the stuff that kind of you might have been lapped on some of that stuff, you might be finding yourself like, well, what's going on here? You know, if you're interested, you know, those books are still out there for you, you know. But at a certain point, if that's not the case, then yeah, you just let it wash over you and keep it pushing, you know. Because I think there is supposed to be a chronological version of, at the very least, the Krakoan era, or maybe not Hoxbox. I think that's already been out, but the coming on the chronological order of the Krakoan era. I thought I read something like that being the case, but I'm not sure. That's probably not going to be out until after all this is said and done anyway. So, but I have to look that up. Either way, that is Fall of the House of X. I guess, yeah, the Rise is the next one, or whatever's on the list, and whatever else to kind of bring this on home. So it was still, that being said though, the book was a pretty good read, because that whole stuff at the whole you know, everything come together and things kind of, even though looks like the plan is kind of going, the plans that the X-Men and crew have had coming into this kind of had some bumps and bruises, which of course it wouldn't be an X plan if it didn't. So
right. They've had to improvise, as one of the characters puts it. So
exactly,
they have because of their timelines having to be moved up.
Right, but it still makes for a good read, even though you might be like, wait, what happened here, or whatever the case may be. Like I said, especially the whole Wolverine and Colossus thing from the last, well, from the start of this issue and a couple other issues in from the other books that have been kind of some fun reads.
We're probably going to see what's going on with Firestar in the Rise of the Powers book, because I know that's where we last saw her. So
Right, and there was probably some allusion to that in this being a factor of this whole thing. So yeah, that's probably true. That is quite likely true. And another part of this that was at the very least looked up, that was referenced here, that that'll probably come over there also, having to do with a certain character a certain
Right.
mainish X-Men character who's kind of been on trial. So, but yeah, that's some good stuff. I still continued reading. Like I said, the if you kind of bump up the fact that you didn't catch everything, I wouldn't worry about it too much. But at the same time, some of that stuff was interesting read, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's a good read. What's funny is that the parts that I did like were made this book a candidate for Click of the Week for me because that part was enjoyable. Those parts were enjoyable. It's just that overall, I felt like it was just a touch disjointed.
Yeah. And I can see how that could be the case. Like I said, like I know there's been a couple of things that I know that I remember reading that you had not, but in the same token, you are in the same boat with stuff with me. So I totally get that. That being the case, though, hey, guess what, folks? Buckle up. We still got a couple of more months to go with this whole thing. So let it ride for what it is until it gets. Hopefully, it doesn't get bad. But I would hate for the Krakoan era to end on a bad note.
Right.
But with that, we're going to go to our next. Well, actually, excuse me, no, we're not. We're going to go into rapid fire because that's pretty much all we have in common.
All right, here we go. Rapid fire review time.
Ain't got time to move.
I'll finish up my books. I only have a few left. First up is Black Panther #9. It's written by Eve L. Ewing with pencils by Chris Allen and Mac Chater, inks by Craig Young and Mac Chater, colors by Jesus Bertov, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. I will not be spoiling too much of this because I know Roddykat is going to do his damnedest to catch up on this. I will say that I understand some of the criticism that this book has gotten. It's not the most exciting. There's a lot of world building that's still going on. There's exposition and world building aplenty in this issue. I think it's worthwhile simply because the world of Wakanda, no pun intended, right? The world of Wakanda still has so much to be left to explore. And this is just part of it. That's just what it is. This is just part of the exploration of the world of Wakanda that has been unlocked based on the character's popularity, based on the MCU, so on and so on. So be prepared to digest quite a bit of exposition and tolerate a little bit of world building to see a deeper story being told, to see a character like T'Challa and a place like Wakanda be given more depth. I think that's worthwhile.
Right. Before you go on, you just struck me on something real quick. If World of Wakanda, that book World of Wakanda has still been around, this totally could have been just a thing in that book.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So
that's why I thought
funny.
It. That's what it made me, that's what brought that particular term to mind.
Mm-hmm.
So last but not least for me is Spider-Gwen Smash #3. It's written by Melissa Flores, pencils by Enid Balam, inks by Elisabetta D'Amico, colors by Fer Cifuentes Sujo, and letters by VC's Ariana Mar. This is an interesting miniseries because it involves Gwen and her band being the opening act for Dazzler, and Dazzler being the subject of, let's just say, stalker fan. Like, she's definitely in that like Taylor Swift mode, like that current Taylor Swift mode. But many very famous solo singers and even just stars, especially female stars, unfortunately become targets of stalkers in real life. And this is very much allegorical in this case. And it wouldn't be the first time that Dazzler in any incarnation has had to deal with something like that, like crazy fans, right? There's there's an issue of Uncanny X-Men that deals with that when with the stalker fan of Dazzler. But the Spider-Gwen part of this is actually pretty fun. I enjoy what they're doing with Gwen's character. I like some of the paths that they've taken her down, especially in these limited series that have been told and put out and published in lieu of Gwen having a current ongoing. And this is something I mentioned to Roddykat in our pre-production meeting, that Spider-Gwen, Ms. Marvel, and Silk seem to be those characters. Wonder what they all have in common. Seem to be those characters that have just enough popularity to have these multiple issue miniseries put out that basically continued their character development and story in place of a regular ongoing series. Right? So you kind of have to, jump back on every time a new miniseries comes out to see the continuing adventures, because these basically build off one another. They're not just like one-offs. They build off one another. So if you want to, kind of keep up with Spider-Gwen, the character, this is something you want to pick up. There's actually some kind of cool developments between Gwen and her supporting cast going on in this series. I actually like this particular issue a lot. So it's a candidate for Click of the Week for me as well. And that's it for me.
Nice. You also kind of reminded me, like, the whole Dazzler thing was, as I was saying, especially recently, and I was trying to find the miniseries that it was, and it was Exterminator from 2022, 2023. That also kind of had a thing, because it was like Dazzler, Jubilee, X-23, or Wolverine, excuse me, and a couple other folks. And it kind of started off with and Boom Boom. I don't know how I kind of forget that. Having to starting off dealing with a kind of not necessarily a stalker, but someone that was in Dazzler's periphery, and that was a pretty fun read.
Like a crazed fan. Yeah, I remember that. I remember
more like an ex, or a current, at the time current boyfriend that ended up being an ex at the start of that miniseries.
Right. He was like a vampire or something, right?
Correct. Yeah. That went kind of wild. Yeah. But it was a fun read. It was good. So the fun you should mention that. Also, Juggernaut's favorite, Dazzler, as Von Gloom reminded me recently when we talked. But yeah. Right. All right, folks. Let's see. First up for me, we're gonna hit the Gang War back up again with Miles Morales number 16. Are you Miles? There we go. Written by Cody Ziegler, art by Federico Vicentini and Federica Manson. Color artist Brian Valenza, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. So, if you were looking at the reading order of Gang War, yeah, you could possibly move this up a couple of spots, because this, and it says so at the beginning of the book, so you don't have to worry about it, but this absolutely takes place before the events of Amazing Spider-Man in proper order. In fact, the last page pretty much shows Miles going over to that book. So, but this is him wrapping up his part of the Gang War and dealing with Hobgoblin and Rabble, who pretty much
Rabble.
Exactly, who's teamed up to kind of break off their corner of New York, and Miles and an assorted crew, which includes Miss Marvel, and I don't know if she's going to be around after this, but a potential new possible hero named Gust, who is pretty much a noob in all of this, so she and also young, so she's gonna need a little bit of baking. But I'm hoping maybe they'll come back to that character. I don't know, but
well, that's the character that's hanging out with the cops, right?
Correct.
Right.
So and on that, also on that front, Scorpion, who had pretty much joined Miles in this, and there was Scorpion, Starling, and somebody else I can't remember. But basically, they were pretty much running distraction with, as Starling said, some Z-listers. And at the first, and at the part of it wasn't doing all that well until actually Scorpion kind of saved the day with a little parlay. So that part was kind of amusing. But also it was also kind of funny to me because one of the quote unquote Z-listers was Riccadonna, which is a callback to if I'm not mistaken, Daughters of the Dragon miniseries from a while back.
I'm like, who?
Right.
Seriously? Wait. Where's Korath? I'm like, when you said that name, I was like, no, don't you mean Capadonna?
Nice.
I mean that in all seriousness. I was like, who? I could hear Korath in my head. We've been using this sound drop for years, and I could hear as soon as you said it. I was like, "What?"
Right, but no, it is Riccadonna, and like I said, the only reason why I know this is because I remember reading that miniseries. Because, you know, just the brain has so much memory. Why is it comic based? For me, we don't know. But hey, it is what it is, folks. But yeah, so that was kind of funny on that respect for me. I'm like, okay. And yeah, I probably would have been the same way if I had not known who that character was. So, and some of the other ones there was like, okay, yeah, it was like Shocker and a couple other folks, you know, that's kind of been around in the pages of Spidey. So it was like, yeah, all right, cool. So,
just
but that was kind of, what's that?
Just one question.
Sure.
I've been on and off Ziegler's run on Miles for a while now.
I know this.
And I'm hesitant to read this. I want to see what they do with Kamala. We all know where Kamala is primarily nowadays. That's in the pages of her own book and in the pages of the X book, because that's where they you know, the X books, because that's where they want to put her. So I guess they conveniently just have her come in, say what's up to Miles for these 2 issues, and then dip out to go back to the X stuff.
I'm going to assume, and this is purely assumption, the next issue is probably going to have them maybe talking a little bit more. I don't know, but you definitely don't get that here because it was pretty much all action.
Gotcha. But they show Kamala not going to Central Park.
Correct. So
that's what I mean by having her kind of go back to the stuff.
That is my hope because of that. But yeah, that could very well be the case. But then again, hey, you know, Peter's book didn't really use her all of that great. We saw how that happened. What happened with that? Despite, you know, what happened with that. But yeah, I'm hoping they're going to circle back around and have them to, you know, at the very least talk a little bit more and maybe have a you know.
They just had her in Peter's book just so they could get the whole mutant thing going.
Right.
So it's funny and awful at the same time.
Basically. So it is what it is. But you know what, like I said, this pretty much wraps up Miles's little part of that, going into, like I said, Amazing Spider-Man 43, as it directly does at the end of this book. So that is pretty much the gist of it. Next book for me is a potential Kliq of the week. Probably will be no surprise once you hear the name of it. Transformers number 5. Written and art by Daniel Warren Johnson, colors by Mike Spicer, letters by Russ Wooten. So this book has been going, like pretty much hitting on all cylinders since the jump. You know, Daniel Warren Johnson kind of writing / drawing out some childhood fantasies. I'm trust to believe during the course of this thing. One of which, including, if you're watching the video version, you can see Optimus Prime staring down at Megatron's gun, which he does in fact use during the course of this, quite effectively during the course of this issue in certain respects.
I may need to go back and review all these. Do I need to read Void whatever?
No, Void Rivals, you don't have to. No.
Okay, I could just read Transformers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's one issue of Transformers that will probably call back to that, and that's when the character that showed up there comes back here for a second, if I'm not mistaken. But other than that, no, you don't necessarily do. There's some other Transformers side stuff that's been showing up in that book, and that's if you're one of those ones who pretty much stayed with the show, with the animated series to like season 3.
Right. Okay.
So, but no, roughly you don't have to. G.I. Joe might be another issue, but at this point, no. So anyway, more action. So the Autobots are trying to get their group together and looking for energy. So are the Decepticons. One of them gets there first and but they're both basically trying to come at each other. Starscream is basically trying to keep Megatron out of everybody's mouths. So seeing Optimus with his gun kind of also kind of shook him, but at the same time, Optimus kind of handed him in a little bit. But a new set of players or a new old set of players ends up showing up at the end of this book, and Optimus Prime, let's say, gets kitted. And that is a reference you would have to reach back for, even if you knew what I was talking about, even if you saw what I was talking about. And I would go so far as to say it by another name, but I won't because that'll give away who shows up. But also, we've probably talked about who's showing up.
Well, Michael Knight shows up?
No, but
you said kitted, though.
I know. Said kitted. Yes, I did. And yes, and what happens to Optimus is kind of in reference to something that happens in that show that I think we talked about, actually.
That's so funny. I wasn't sure if that's what that was reference to. So.
Mm-hmm. So,
oh my god.
Yeah, let's just say there's a group of Decepticons comes into play. And I want to say who it is, but I feel like I've given up too much as it is. But Starscream says something about new toys in this, which was clever, and yeah. But yeah, this is like I said, this has been a great read. I don't like what Starscream did to Ravage. Kind of takes a hit in this that I don't appreciate, but Starscream's a bastard, so you kind of expect it. I guess the other part of this in passing is that at the beginning of this, Optimus and Sparkplug, who in this universe kind of has PTSD because of his prior dealings with the Decepticons, and I guess his stint during the Gulf War, or they don't say the Gulf War, but basically they I think they have mentioned like Iraq in passing. So it sounds like he might have been
right. So not necessarily the original Gulf War, but maybe the most recent Middle Eastern conflicts. I gotcha.
Like they took great care to not to specify a time, but if you know enough about it, it's like, yeah, okay, you can say it's within a time, within.
Gotcha. So, it's interesting that you say that this is like Daniel Warren Johnson's like fever dream of like the 80s Transformers.
I believe he almost said as much in letters pages in the past, but yeah, because you can like once you catch up, you'll see exactly what I mean.
Right. And I also have to say, and just to interject just a touch, I feel like Starscream is the character everyone wants to write.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
More so than any other character, Starscream is the character everyone wants to write. And I think that it's interesting that that's the character that did not get a lot of play on the movie screen when Michael Bay did his thing.
Well, probably for the best, because let's face it, based on what I've seen from even one of those movies, he ain't doing any of them all that great.
So, right.
So him
it's just a shame. Because like hearing you describe this and just based off of my own memories of reading the comics, watching the G1 animated series, and the little that I have been exposed to in the other incarnations of Transformers, Starscream is such a great character.
Right. And that's why he
may
keeps coming back.
Be the primary bad guy, but he's he's like the 1B bad guy. Right. And he's, I think, the most fun for the writers to write.
Oh, indeed. Absolutely. Like I said, and that's pretty much why he's always come back during the course of, other animated series, like specifically talking about, he died in the movie, spoiler alert, but has come back since then a couple times in like Transformers season 3, and even in Beast Wars has come back. So, yeah, it is kind of funny, and yeah, I agree with you on all that. But in this case, like I said, I can see the choices they have made during the course of this, series so far. If you have an understanding of G1, might put you off in a certain way, but also makes total sense in other ways. So, and that's what's making it enjoyable. Because like I said, even from that first issue, it's like, oh, this is definitely different right off the rip. So it's not going to be just them doing 84 over again because it's been done already. So,
All right.
but it's definitely kind of a reboot that almost felt like there was a little bit of Bayverse in it by certain things, but they don't play that up too well, too much, which I've been liking. That being said, if you are a Transformers fan, you should definitely check it out. Like I said, potential click of the week for me. Oh yeah, Reflector makes some camera puns and some other things happen in this book, and we do see. Speaking of G1 character, we see a not G1 character kind of come into the fold. In this issue, but also some would say a fan favorite. I know definitely a favorite of mine. In their in a better frame than they have been in the past. Let's just say. So, but it's good anyway. Like I said, it's supposed to be quick. But hey, it's Transformers. Next book for me is The Hunger in the Dusk #6. Folks, this stuff on the fly. Written by G. Willow Wilson, art by Chris Wildgoose, colors by Mystique, and letters by Simon Boland. So after the events of last issue, Tara, who is an orc healer of some note with her clan, but she's still also kind of young, was with the human orc alliance, but after some things happened, or after some words were exchanged last issue, which Agent 70, I know you were trying to catch up with it. I can't remember if you had or not.
I have not yet. So
okay, well,
feel free, because none of this is going to be remembered by the time I get to it.
Yeah, I know. I get like that myself. But that's pretty much as I will say about that part. But in this particular issue, there's a parting of the way. Well, she had already parted the ways as of the end of last issue, and this is pretty much a solo story of her. Basically, had already left the alliance and on her way back home by herself. And this is her journey to do that. And as some people that she's come, as some people that she come across in the course of the story, while she is also flashing back to younger times, she can pretty much take care of herself to a point. So, and that's good to see, because a lot of times I could have gone a wholly different way. But at the end of this, we find out that, we find out a couple of things about a particular relationship that she has, thanks to a memory, but also some lessons that she has learned in the past. But also at the end of this, she makes a revelation that that kind of brings us back to the crux of what this kind of book is about. Her part in it, we shall see, because she, like I said, there's a thing that the Alliance group has been trying to find out about, that they had already sent out somebody to look into, but that person hadn't come back. And it looks like, Tara is also making a similar discovery on that lines. And it looks like at the end of this book, if I'm read it right, it says something about the next, basically it alluded to the next part coming summer 2024. So I'm going to assume that this book is on hiatus until the summer.
I got time to catch up.
You do have time to catch up. In fact, let me pull this. Excuse me, I'm gonna pull this up really quick. I'm sorry. Let's see what exactly to say. Because after the story ends, there is a page. Yes. New battles for life and love begin. The Hunger in the Dusk, Book 2, Summer 2024 is what it says.
Six issue arc.
It does not say that, but yes, that's definitely what's going on here. Seems like so. Yeah. Which I know. I think G. Wilson has done that before. I think was kind of like that. I don't remember, or before it went to whatever Maxi series it is now. So. But anyway, I have been enjoying the book. So. You might too. I don't want to belabor talking about it again, but I'm sure we will revisit it again quite soon, or in summer to be specific. Next up, is Blade #8. Written by Brian Hill, art by Elena Casagrande, color artist KJ Diaz, letters by VC's Corey Pettit. So, last week, if you remember us talking about She-Hulk, let's just say the sibling of a character that shows up here showed up then. Not necessarily a spoiler, but hey, it is what it is. Satana, which is a character I hadn't seen in a minute, shows up because Blade needs her help to do a thing, because he's trying to do a thing that is in service of him trying to take down the Adana, which he has unleashed upon the world. And apparently a lot of people supernaturally adjacent know about this or have heard about it already, because as she says, you're going on an apology tour, for what you let loose. But that is the thing. So yeah, he goes to her for help, and which happens, but he has to put trust in another person who's been surrounded around, and we find out a little bit more on a character we hadn't seen since the first issue that he had dealt with, that has some relationship with another character that has been in this issue, or that has been in this book this whole time. So, which was previously unknown. So that's possibly a thing that's going to come up next issue. We shall see. But yeah, there is that. Next up is Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver #1. Written by Steve Orlando, art by Lorenzo Tameta, color artist Frank William, and letters by VC's Ariana Maher. So yeah, it's not quite same creative team on the Scarlet Witch book. Steve Orlando is pretty much the only holdover here, but new art. Not team. I think Ariana Maher was also on that book also, but this is surprisingly enough a potential click of the week for me, actually, because it starts off with Wanda and Pietro kind of saving the day against the stuff. Pietro is pretty well Pietro in this book. If you know anything about his nature, that is pretty much all up and through here. The thing is that once they finish that, a certain article from a currently still deceased relationship of theirs kind of comes into play. But some of us may know that character's probably going to be back at some point. But regardless, in the course of this story, something kind of comes up from that character, which ends up causing a rift between the two. And some things kind of come out. Although I'm not entirely sure if it was something originally from that character or something's set up that from I would say lesser known Fantastic Four villain that shows up during the course of this to cause us some play that did absolutely has something to do with this, but to what extent I'm not entirely sure. And it was kind of amusing to see this character showing up in this book to cause some havoc, because you thought it would go one way, and it turns out that it doesn't. Things don't go the way you think it would in that matchup. And at the end, leaves on a cliffhanger, because you see, well, one, during the course of it, Pietro kind of run into some trouble, and this character that I just mentioned showing his hand to Wanda, and something happens at the end of this. So yeah, it was going to stuff. Also, shout out to Darcy, who's the voice of reason in this, for a reason that you would have to find out for yourself, given what I just said.
Darcy.
Yes, Darcy's still in play here. Next book is continuing on the #1 train. Night Thrasher #1. Oops. There we go. Written by Jay Holtham, sorry. Art by Nelson Daniel, color artist Matt Miller, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So, if you know about the character of Night Thrasher, congratulations, you're probably a 90s kid and read The New Warriors.
Shout out to Adman Wang 97.
Absolutely. But also you may or may not remember what happened to him in subsequent years. That being, and we're talking about the impetus for Civil War. But you may or may not also know that, well, guess what? If you clearly, since he had the book, you know he's back. And they kind of touch on the thing that I totally forgot I had read that brought him back, which was relatively recent. That I think it was like a couple of years ago at this point, but I totally forgot that was the thing that brought him back for, you know, in the way that it brought him back. But this is him pretty much coming back to New York. We see an appearance by fellow New Warrior and I guess former love interest Silhouette, who I last saw in the pages of Ironheart, which that also comes into play because she was in that book, and also another family member of hers is pretty much referenced, and actually in the backstory is shown because she gets a little one-off backstory in the behind of this. But like I said, Dwayne's back in New York. He's basically kind of give it out of the game and trying to come into New York to kind of tie up a loose end with the company of his, which, you know, the people around him, including the aforementioned Silhouette, doesn't care too much about. But in true comic book fashion, you know, as you try to pull a person out, as a person tries to pull themselves out, they get just drawn back in because of a thing. And that thing might have something to do with another former teammate of his, which I hadn't seen in a good while. But you kind of can see it coming. Well, you almost kind of see it coming, put it that way. Because you think it could go one way, but it's like, oh, no, that's not it. But at the same time, oh, yeah, totally. There we go. When you see that person come up on the screen, you know who it is. And there's a reference that I told Agent 7 about before the show that about a different character that is kind of funny in this. That looks to share some similarities in this is kind of funny. That's all I'll say. And with that, folks,
look at the reference that Roddykat snuck in his review, his talk on Night Thrasher #1.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
I mean, that's pretty much what it ends up being. So, you know, it can only be that reference. And that, folks, is it for my books. Kliqs of the week.
All righty, Kliqs of the week. I don't have too many to choose from, but I think I'm just going to bite the bullet and say Follow the House of X #2 as my Kliq of the week this week. Despite the disjointed read, I rather enjoyed some of the things that I read in that book.
I mean, like we said earlier, it was a good read. So yeah, that stuff aside, absolutely. I mean, it's a testament to it that that's the case, because, you know, there's things that could get so disjointed to where it's kind of unreadable.
Right.
So, but this didn't seem to be that case. For myself, yeah, my potential is still there. Transformers, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. Actually, Hunger in the Dusk is kind of in there as well. But once again, I feel like we know where this is going, folks. And I hate to be that the case, but hey, if the book impresses upon you for whatever reason, then that is the case. Actually, let me, before I even say what it is, which actually is starting to remind me of solo leveling that I just read recently. It was just kind of funny. But there's Fall of the House of X for Agent 70. And of course, for myself, Transformers #5. I kind of figured he was going to be at the ready for that, and I appreciate it. And that, folks, is the Kliqs of the week. We're going to go over into the news section, but first, an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night is for Funko Fun at First Sight. It's your home for exclusive collectibles such as their world famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, apparel including t-shirts, hats, and socks, and brand merchandise including custom DIY pop figures, art books, and skateboards. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. To place your first order with 10% off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10 for your 10% off discount. Funko through cspn.us. Do it today. Now we get into the news.
And we start off with cinematic news as we do about this time. Samuel L. Jackson wants a Star Wars Disney Plus show starring Mace Windu because apparently Secret Invasion was a nodder. That's my words, not his. But apparently, according to this article, old Sam Jack is insisting that Mace Windu did not die, and I am one of the few folks.
Did you just say Mace Windu did not die?
You know what, that happens, but it is Mace Windu.
I just
Although that's funny in a couple of ways because there was a window involved, but yes,
that's an interesting coincidence.
Yes. But yeah, speaking to Empire, Jackson eagerly replied to text message questions surrounding his role in Star Wars prequel trilogy. He's not dead, motherfucker. Okay, he didn't say that last part. But he replied when asked about Windu's apparent death. Everything, yes, when he said when he was asked about a Disney Plus show about that character. I'm also of the mind to think he's not dead. Like, one, we didn't see a body. We just saw him go out of a window. He might have gathered himself up, used the force, got out of the way. He's you know, I feel like the way he went out should not have been the end of that character. Right. So,
And
I
also,
agree with that. Go ahead.
Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you, motherfucker. Say what one more goddamn time.
Nice. Oh, this article also mentions that Jackson somewhat made a character in episode 9, speaking to Rey through the voice, alongside the likes of Ahsoka and Anakin, one of which is not dead, by the way. So, or as far as we know, it still is still around as of that movie, because I know that is sometimes later. Although, again, we don't know what the future ends or what's going to happen with that Filoni thing. So, but that's just something this article knows. Like, yeah, but that doesn't also mean he's dead, because there's live force users that can do that, from what I know. Anyway, next up.
all right, and some of the most interesting but kind of a terrible kept secret over the last couple of weeks, Marvel Studios on Valentine's Day / Ash Wednesday this year revealed the release date of the new Fantastic Four movie, that being July 25th, 2025, and revealed the cast of the main 4 characters, that being Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, Eben Moss Backrack as Ben Grimm / The Thing, and Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm. Now, I will count myself as among the people that recognized 3 out of those 4 names, and then after some Google, I realized I should recognize the 4th name, that being Joseph Quinn, who plays Johnny Storm, because that is a character. He played a character from Stranger Things. He played Eddie Munson, right?
Monster.
Exactly, Munson, Eddie Munson from Stranger Things. He of the heavy metal D&D guy. He was the heavy metal D&D guy.
Gotcha. Okay.
And he did a great job playing that role.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
that was great. You're not up on Stranger Things, right?
Nope.
He did an excellent job in that role. So I don't know what he's going to be like as Johnny Storm, but I think he'll do a good job. And Eben Moss Backrack, if you have not watched The Bear, he's phenomenal in The Bear, especially season 2.
Okay. I was
The
about to
Bear
say,
is on Hulu.
I was about to say you're up on me because I feel like Vanessa Kirby might have been in a Mission Impossible movie. Or 2.
I was about to say I think we saw Vanessa Kirby in that awful Rock and Jason Statham Fast and Furious spinoff.
Oh, well, yeah, could have been both, but yeah, I guess so. I vaguely remember much of anything from that movie, so that's it is what it is on that. But
Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah. So the funny thing about this, if you're watching the video version, you can see the IGN's thumbnail or whatever video that I'm not going to play. You see Pedro Pascal front and center, but behind him you see the cast of the original Fantastic Four movie, a la Jessica Alba, Chris Evans, and the commish as the thing.
Right.
So that's kind of funny. But again, further down in the article, you see the illustration of the characters, or the of the persons mentioned, including looks like a Herbie reference, that I very much appreciate. Although it's not a flying Herbie, so unless that, well, I guess you can see the little jets back there. But regardless, hey, that is a thing. And also the picture of someone as an astronaut on the wall behind him, which I don't know who that is.
That's Evan Moss Backrack.
Oh, is it? Okay.
The guy who plays Ben Grimm.
Oh, okay.
Now it all makes sense, right?
Now it all makes sense. Yes, because like, why do they have them there? But yeah, I guess that absolutely makes sense given that the things in makeup or whatever. Oh, not makeup, but you know what I'm saying. But okay, cool. Nevertheless, part of this was, like you said, Age of 70, worst kept secret, because everybody's wanting to pay for Pedro Pascal, and I believe the Vanessa Kirby one was the kind of first one that was like, yeah, that seems to be the rumor here, as a front runner for this. So it is what it is, I guess. And you said there was a date, and where's the date?
Oh, I just closed the article. July 2025.
There we go. Yep. Oh yeah, and it does talk about the image on the wall with okay, go. Yeah. So yeah, I kind of want to revisit those last 2-3 movies, even though I've seen at least one of them in recent history, but they're not great movies. But I still kind of want to do it. We'll see. If
the Silver Surfer one is the one I need to go back to. I don't think I've actually watched that all the way through.
That one actually is the one I remember for a specific reason.
The first one I watched in the theaters.
Right. Oh,
believe it or not.
Huh. Yeah, you didn't know at the time, so I guess.
Yeah, the very first one went to the theater.
Yeah, the Silver Surfer one I remember for a specific point, which I was like, really? What we're doing here, huh? Okay. But yeah, if you happen to revisit that, you let me know how you feel about it. Next up, though, good news, everybody. X-Men 97 finally gets a trailer and a March premiere, March 20th specifically. Agent 70 just saw the trailer right before we recorded. It's slightly kind of why we're a little late, but hey, was catching up on some stuff, which you'll find out about in a minute. It definitely has the feels for those who were a fan of the original animated series. As I said to Age of 70, like there's at least one piece of voice work that seems like you can definitely tell the age there. And I'm still thinking, yeah, I believe that was the case, but the voice actor for Cyclops is obviously new because the original voice actor had passed away, if I'm not mistaken, but a good sounded like, unless that was him and he had done some stuff before he passed, I can't remember. But regardless, if you hadn't checked out the trailer yet and you are interested, you should. It's some good stuff in here. Even had Age of 70 kind of chuckling at a classic line being said. in this. And like I said, March 20th. So we will definitely be talking about it next month, excuse me, when it premieres. And Age of 70, I believe, said he might end up catching up with the end of the original series.
Right, because I never watched it. So it's
Right.
not that I'm catching up on it. I really need to circle back and kind of see what I missed.
Right. Well, yeah, you
Because
said you hadn't seen the last couple of issues or last couple of seasons or something like that.
something like that.
Yeah.
Because I will tell you that and what I said to Roddykat in our pre-production meeting is that I was so disenchanted by the departures from the comic book canon that I just couldn't keep watching. But I understand it has some loyalty. It's garnered some loyalty, and it generated some interest enough of which to come back. So you know what, it might be worth revisiting for me.
I mean, it's safe to say that even in the first couple of seasons or whatever the case, even in the first season, like, yeah, it captured enough of what people liked about the X-Men at the time, and even up into including some storylines from the X-Men comics in adapted ways, to where what made it beloved. So yeah, it definitely ended interestingly enough, in a similar way actually. And as Age of 70 saw a piece of during the course of the trailer, but uh it kept some things in the corner. Like, yeah, it got a little wonky in those last couple of seasons because of reasons, and one of which is animation and stories that was going on, I guess. But yeah, it still kind of kept itself. Regardless, speaking of, so we can move on. If you haven't seen the trailer, it definitely keeps the feel animation wise for the original series, but just more cleaned up. Newer technology, probably a little bit of CG behind there or whatever the case may be, in helping the art. But nevertheless, it does definitely keep the feel of that original series. So that is also appreciated. Anyway, next up.
Alrighty, Deadpool 3 trailer reveals the new title of the movie as Wade Wilson declares himself Marvel Jesus. So the first Deadpool 3 trailer appeared during a Super Bowl 58 commercial break, revealing a closer look at Wade Wilson's foray into the Marvel Cinematic Universe with his best friend, Wolverine. So the title of the movie is now Deadpool and Wolverine, and we all know that is almost straight out of the comics because you gotta sell. If you put Wolverine in the title, people are gonna come. So it makes some sense.
I still haven't seen those last few Wolverine, the Logan movies. I should probably address to do that at some point. Oh yeah, and with that, folks, apparently, actually, you know what? I'm going to take these next three because they're all related. If you don't mind.
Sounds good. I can take a nap. Wake me up when you're done. Wake me up before you go.
Nice. Now you might want to hear some of this, but apparently people thought they spotted Doctor Doom in the Deadpool 3 trailer. So there is that. People are gonna, I think there was another article, and do I have it in here? Probably not. But there was somebody else that they thought they saw in the course of this. But regardless, hey, Deadpool 3 apparently had 365 million views when it came out, or since it's come out, I should say. And I guess I'm assuming that's on YouTube. Which makes it the most viewed Marvel trailer. Well, excuse me, at least with against Spider-Man No Way Home, which I think had the title for a while. Which I feel like says a lot about the people, and this is just me editorializing, who like Deadpool, those dumbasses. Anyway, again, that's just my opinion, but yeah, it broke a record. Excuse me, it said, oh yeah, Spider-Man No Way Home, for context, had 355.5 million online views in the first 24 hours back in 2021, as opposed to the 365 million in 24 hours for this particular Deadpool 3 trailer. And last, but probably in some people's eyes least, and unsurprisingly, reactions to the Deadpool 3 trailer have apparently really irritated She-Hulk fans. Or I would go so far as to say possibly good reason.
Okay.
Because as folks know, well, one, She-Hulk was the first one to do the fourth wall breaking before Deadpool anyway. But basically, to shorten up this article, yeah, apparently Deadpool makes a joke in this trailer that She-Hulk makes in her series that some folks thought was, according to what it says here, gross. But and then it just started a whole tweet thread, comment thread not war, but in the on, of course, on Twitter or X as it is. So with people coming to the defense of She-Hulk and whatnot. If you want to read the article for yourself, you can kind of go into the nitty-gritty of that. But nevertheless, one, I'm not the biggest Deadpool fan. Two, I don't remember that joke from She-Hulk, but sure, but I still kind of like that before anything over Deadpool. That's just me. Again, that is just me. So, but people are also upset over anything, but this might have some slight justification. But also, the flack that the She-Hulk show got were for probably obvious reasons, as to some other Marvel projects of late that have been getting undue flack for at the base of it. Just saying. Next up.
Alrighty, ahead of its drop on March 14th, 2024, Invincible has gotten an intense trailer ahead of the part 2 of season 2 dropping on that date. And I just watched it just before the show.
As did I.
And it's listen, the voice acting is always top notch on Invincible. The animation, for me is a little hit and miss, but I like where the story goes, and and the acting is very good because they got really good actors to play these roles. So I'm looking forward to it. What do you think?
Oh yeah, like I said, I've been enjoying that show. Every time I've seen it, or up until this point, kind of makes me want to go check out the comic book, because that is a blind spot for me, and I know that's a relatively popular comic book for its time, and probably even still now. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm waiting for it, because like I said, we only got those 4 episodes that we got last year, and that, not counting that Eve special, which you still haven't seen yet, have you?
Say again?
The Eve, the Adam Eve special that came out before the
I did. I finally
Okay.
got around to it.
Okay.
I did finally get around to it.
Gotcha. So, but yeah, so we're getting this March 14th, so I guess you'll hear us talking about it after March 14th. We shall see.
Soon enough. Less than a month away now, folks.
Indeed. Star Trek Discovery gets a premiere date for the 5th and final season at Paramount Plus, and that date is April 4th. So got a couple of months for me to catch up anyway. The first 2 episodes of the 10-episode final season, which that's kind of sad, will debut in a lot of places around the world. Actually, it's only a few places, but I don't feel like saying them. But also the Paramount Plus released some key art for the final season, which is the image you are seeing if you're watching the video version. So the one thing I hate about, so just real quick, Star Wars, as of at the very least Next Generations, all had 7 seasons with the exception of Discovery and Enterprise. And it kind of sucks that they're not getting, neither one of them are getting that. I mean, that Nickelodeon thing and Lower Decks also different, but those are different regardless. But like live action series is, and I know there's a fan base for Discovery enough to probably push for some more, but the fact that that last season's only getting 10 episodes is kind of a crime, because I know I have heard good things about the show, but it also kind of suffers from a similar fan base to not unlike the ones who would like a Deadpool movie, I guess. And that's probably sad to say because that's probably not true, but I'm just saying. Anywho, that is that. Next up.
All right, Lionsgate will open its 4th Las Vegas attraction later this year, the John Wick Experience, in a partnership with Immersive Entertainment District Area 15. Filmmaker Chad Stahelski and his team at 8711 Entertainment are involved in the overall design of the attraction with Egan Productions, which will take up 12,000 square feet of space on the Area 15 campus. Guests will step through the doors of the Las Vegas Continental, love it, and into the fantastical world of the billion-plus grossing franchise movies, where they will navigate a high-stakes adventure as well as visit a themed bar and retail shop open to the general public. Stahelski produces the franchise with Basil Iwanek and Erica Lee at Thunder Road Films. I hope they give out pencils in the end.
Wait, was that you or is that what the article said?
Oh, that's me. Are you kidding me? There's times when I'm like, I will, like I kind of want to have, like a couple of sharpened pencils. This one happens to not be sharpened. A couple of sharpened pencils at the ready just in case.
He took out 20 men with a pencil.
Who does that?
Man. And apparently there's an escape room. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was about to say there was an escape room that's John Wick based. And I'm like, how would that go? But apparently.
So here's the description.
Wait, no.
Each group of guests. I jumped to the article very quickly just to see if there's something we're missing.
Right.
Each group of guests will be tasked with specific missions, playing out in unique ways with characters, mythology, and iconography from the Wick universe. The adventures entail rubbing elbows with Continental staff, assassins, crime bosses, and other curious guests like themselves within the relative safety of the Continental. Okay.
Yeah. So it is a true experience. I thought it says because it says something about an escape room, but apparently the people that are doing the experience does escape room stuff.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, exactly. They do stuff like that too. Like I said, I'm willing to bet the gift shop is going to have pencils for you to buy. John Wick pencils.
That seems likely. That seems quite likely. All right. As I go ahead and try to push something over for next week, Katie Sackhoff wants in on the new Predator movie as the search is on for a female lead. So yeah, we had heard in an interesting picture of her. We have heard that there was going to be a new Predator movie done by Prey director Dan Trachtenberg, probably a sequel, possibly. It says, I'm sorry. It is recently announced that Prey director Dan Trachtenberg is developing a new standalone Predator movie titled The Badlands. So what I said still stands. And now Katie Sackhoff of BSG and The Mandalorian wants in on the film. So apparently she said this on X and said that Badlands will be a Predator movie set in the future with a female lead. And she also says that, please, oh, please let it be me. I feel uniquely qualified to kick the Predator's butt. And you know what? If you have seen her turn on Battlestar Galactica and in some short order Mandalorian, yes, she absolutely is. I think she may have done some other sci-fi shows where she's similarly kicking some ass, but yeah. But yeah, we don't know anything outside of that, according to this article, that Badlands is not a sequel to Prey. But there is one still in the works, starring Amber Mid-Thunder, so that's awesome.
Right.
But
that's good.
Yeah, but nothing else has been mentioned about that. And apparently, Badlands will shoot later this year, and it says, according to this article, is a high priority. Badlands is a high priority for 20th Century Studios because they have nothing else. That's just me saying that. And it is explained that Trachtenberg is already meeting with talent for the lead role. So yeah, there you go. Next up.
Alrighty, Monarch, Legacy of Monsters on Apple TV Plus. The star, Anna Sawai, apparently knows just as much about whether or not Apple TV Plus is going to pick up a second season of the show as the rest of us know, allegedly. So apparently, speaking with Screen Rant, Sawai gave an update on Monarch Season 2. She says, I talk to Kiersey Clemens and Ren Watabe all the time, and we still don't know. I'm asking the same question to the producers and the showrunners, Chris Black, and so I would like to know if you find out. So yeah, at least they have not yet released whether or not, Apple has not released whether or not they're going to pick up the show for a second season. I hope they do.
Yes, same. Because I would probably pick up Apple TV Plus again for that time frame.
I think it was well received and well reviewed. So
absolutely. So, and it's nice to know that the three main characters are keeping up with each other, because they seem to gel pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. Also, hey, I know Sawai will next, or unless she has something else on the books, will next be seen in that Shogun redo.
Yes. She's a busy actress.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Which trailers for that has been floating around lately. So there you go. Next up though, hey, speaking of the Godzilla area of the universe, Godzilla Kong, the new Empire trailer teams up the Titans for Carnage Galore, which Agent 70 and I watched him again, me for the first time before the show.
Yep.
And had some thoughts about that trailer. If you're watching the video version, you can see a still image of Kong with I was going to say an iron hand, an iron fist, but not the case. And when I first saw that fist, I thought Bumblebee was they were putting the Transformers into this, which thankfully they were not. But what happens in this trailer is either good or bad from whatever your perspective might be. I think this thing is going to be
both.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still, as we talked earlier before the show, like, yeah, it's a big blockbuster show, so it's going to get a little goofy, and it totally is. And a potential may or may not be relevant or intentional callback to another movie franchise that has a current Marvel book, actually. Now that I think about that, kind of come to mind when watching this new trailer. If you haven't seen it already, hey, it's been out only a day or two, so you can check that out. Apparently, according to this article, March 29th is when Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire is coming out in the UK. I would assume some similar time frame for when it comes here to the US, because this was a UK article.
Right. I'm probably going to watch it in the theaters. I'm
so.
Probably not going to be taking movie protocol to watch it, but it will likely be that opening weekend. Sometime during that opening weekend is when I'll probably try to catch it. Whether or not I end up going by myself, because it's just one of those things that you just want to get done and get it out of the way. You're not trying to haul, one or a bunch of other people to go watch it, but you never know.
Right. Hang on. According to this article, it says here, we get gigantic teeth knocking out gigantic's mouth, bone whips used to slice buildings half, which is all true, and the close-up of Kong's shiny new BEAST glove.
They
don't have what that spells out, but if that is actually what is being called, oh yeah, this is going to be real goofy. Next up,
in better Godzilla movie news, Godzilla Minus One director Takashi Yamazaki has been putting serious thought into a possible sequel, quote, Calm Before the Storm. So the confession comes from Empire Magazine, as the outlet spoke with Yamazaki ahead of the Oscars. It was there Yamazaki was asked about what a sequel could do, and the director stressed the war for Shikishima isn't over. And minor spoiler, Shikishima is not a place but a person. And
Dun,
that is
dun.
one of the central human stories in Godzilla Minus One. I don't want to spoil it necessarily, even though I'm sure Roddykat has skimmed this article, he has an idea what it means, but he's not yet made his way through that movie, so I won't go into it. But bottom line is, there is at the end of the movie the option for a continuation. So it's interesting that where they go from here with Minus One.
If I remember enough from what little I saw of Minus One, I think I know who that person is
Mm-hmm.
at the very least. So it's that much is not lost on me.
Right.
Now we get over into the anime corner.
Alrighty.
Sadly, no news on that book coming out, but I can't wait for that to happen when it happens. Naomi Osaka's Hanakuma and Rebel Maverick developing manga Allure the Evening Primrose as an adult anime series. And guess what? The tennis champ is to voice the lead. So, oh yeah, apparently Naomi Osaka is getting further into anime, as this article says. That Hanakuma production company is hers and has teamed with Rebel Maverick, run by the queer Afro Latinx writing and production team Matt Nicholas and Natasha Kalin, to develop manga series Allure the Evening Primrose as an adult anime TV series. It is based on Noir Caesars Entertainment's manga of the same name. As I said, Osaka will lead the voice cast and executive produce the series, which will be adapted and written by Kenny Byerly of Big Hero 6, the series. So, hey, good for her. That's cool. Let's see. The series, originally written by comic book writer Senatus Tempo, follows Akane Koizumi, Osaka, of course, a talented rookie assassin for the Adachi crime family who longs to receive Allure, a dangerous drug that enhances the ability of elite killers known as Deathbringers. However, when she and her team cross the Adachis and are marked for death, they must find a way to survive and fight back against the Deathbringers who are now pursuing them. So, almost kind of got a John Wick thing kind of going for it.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I mean, not unheard of thing to do. So, sounds interesting at the very least. So we shall maybe see a little bit more when that comes out, or when a roundabout that comes out whenever it happens. Next up,
Quality Assurance in Another World is an anime that was originally scheduled to broadcast on Crunchyroll sometime in April 2024, but it's now been postponed until July 2024. It's a short delay. So the original manga by Makamichi Sato is published in Japan by Kodansha, and you can get an English language version as well from Kodansha. Okay.
of course, this image that is on the article is interesting and weird at the same time.
Yep.
So we'll say that. Also, another isekai sounds like based on the title. So, okay. Next up, though, viral hit anime adaptation announced, premieres on Crunchyroll in April 2024. So this is an anime adaptation of a webtoon series, not unlike God of High School and others. But let's see, it says experience hope and use journey in a whole new way as viral hits is to premiere in April 2024, as I said, in Japan on Fuji TV Ultra Block, along with new teaser trailer and key visual. Crunchyroll is announcing that Viral Hit, the adaptation, will stream on the platform when it premieres in the spring anime season. And then the article kind of goes on from there, talking about actually, it doesn't really say much on. Oh no, there's a synopsis here, but I won't read it. So yeah, seems interesting. But cool. Next up.
Rivals rise to the challenge in Haikyuu final anime film trailer. So, Haikyuu Final, a film in 2 parts, adapting the popular volleyball manga, has published a new trailer ahead of its upcoming, well, the current Japanese theatrical release, which is today, February 16th, 2024, or at least it was as of the start of this recording. So, the first of the 2 Haikyuu Final films began screening today. And we're just waiting now for news on when this will be released in the West. It began screening in Japan only. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm waiting for now.
Yeah, so far there has been no word of that, but I'm pretty sure, as I said earlier, to Agent 70, probably get that information soon. So
hope so.
Yeah. Or Agent 70 is probably going to end up taking a trip to Japan in the next couple of days. We don't know. But you'll know when we know. Manga Corner. Which, we talked about this last week, but the only new information is that, one, the X-Men manga is being remastered, which we talked about last week, and the huge deluxe edition is up for pre-order, which is the new bit of news. It is priced at $25. It's 512 pages, and has received a new translation and is loaded with stories from mangaka Hiroshi Higuchi. So, and it's primarily, as we said last week when we talked about it, basically based on the X-Men animated series version of the X-Men. So there you go. I'm actually kind of interested in this. Also, apparently that other one we talked about, Spider-Man Octagirl, is $12. They are also reissuing Deadpool Samurai. Oh no, sorry, I'm sorry. Nope, that's a coloring book, which is $15. And the X-Men, the art and making of the animated series is $40 according to this article. So next up.
The highly anticipated first solo leveling game, a Solo Leveling Arise, reveals the release window for both the open beta launch and official release. So I know that there's an anime out. That's right. That's out right now, right?
Oh yeah.
So the first solo leveling game, an action RPG called Solo Leveling Arise, will soon see its open beta launch as well as its official global release via news. South Korean game developer Netmarble announced that it will launch its beta version this coming March, so next month, with the goal of the game being released in April of 2024.
Which makes it sound like, given that it's Netmarble and coming from South Korea, it's probably a mobile game.
Okay.
So, but, hey, still, that's not a bad thing. I have been enjoying Solo Leveling. I'm not caught up with the last couple of episodes of it, and I've been reading the manga, trying to get ahead of it, basically. Which I don't know why I'm doing that, because it's dumb.
Okay.
As of what I've read from the manga, could probably be almost to where I am. Depending on how they adapt it, which from what I've seen of the first couple of episodes of the adaptation, they may be taking a little bit of time with it, but still, it won't take much time to catch up to where I am. So, but that's cool though. Now we continue through the Toy Corner with Star Wars Outlaws, to release before the end of the year, and some Assassin's Creed business. But the only thing that's germane to this particular show is Star Wars Outlaws, which is a Ubisoft published and developed, I think it is anyway, video game. Well, no, that is still talking about Assassin's Creed. Don't care. But yeah, new basically in Ubisoft's fiscal earnings for 2023, or at least their projections, that's what basically brought up the news that Star Wars Outlaws will be released, but that's not surprising because stuff like that usually comes out during the holiday season. So the only thing that would have been different is if it got pushed to next year, which it still could, but this is Ubisoft after all. It probably won't. Or probably will, depending on what it is. Nevertheless, but yeah, there's that. Next up.
#1 New York Times best-selling author Lisa Jewell will write the upcoming Marvel crime series thriller Breaking the Dark, a Jessica Jones Marvel crime novel and original story starring private detective Jessica Jones. According to Marvel, Hyperion Avenue, an imprint of Disney Publishing Worldwide, will launch the brand new Marvel crime fiction series for adults in July, revealing an exciting first look at the Breaking the Dark, a Jessica Jones Marvel crime novel cover. Okay. It's the first book in the series.
Sure. I was about to say, you can't call Jessica Jones a private dick. Anyway.
Hold on. Where is it? Thank you very much.
Continue with Toy Corner news. Marvel Hasbro Legends series. Hey, there's an 80th anniversary Deadpool and Ultimate Deadpool core figures coming out. I guess because if I'm not mistaken, though, the Deadpool with Scooter is a reissue, correct? Because I thought that one was out already, or that was a thing that's out already. Or no, it's Deadpool core. I think it was just Deadpool with Scooter previously.
Oh. I gotta look at it. I remember seeing this story. I just never looked at it.
Right. But it's a 6-inch scale vehicles. A scooter, 2 swords with sheath, Hydra head, squirrel pull, really, dog pull, and some stickers, and a Deadpool.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of a cool set, though.
I guess. Sure.
That's kind of a cool set.
Sure.
And you also get, and there's also another whatchamacallit, a retro figure too that's going to be released.
Right. So yeah, but I think this looks like this is a reissue, just adding a couple more figures to the mix.
Yep.
Okay. Next up, though.
All right. Next up in comic book speculation.
That's me saying that, by the way, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this has spoilers for Avengers Inc. #5, which we talked about 2 weeks ago.
I believe that was last week or 2 weeks ago. Yes, and something I forgot to mention when we talked about it.
I think we just didn't want to spoil it because I remember reading this.
Yeah.
And Marvel Comics has officially given a new role to the new Wasp in their universe, effectively rewriting the MCU's portrayal of Hope Van Dyne. So, let's see here. So, Evangeline Lilly's character, the Wasp, in the MCU is named Hope Van Dyne. Hope is never in the comics, although Marvel did create a character loosely inspired by Hope named Nadia Pym, Marvel's new Wasp. So, at some point during this series, during the last issue of the series, that is, Hank basically meets Nadia for the first time. And the dialogue in it basically has Hank saying that Maria named her Nadia Hope, actually.
Right. Now, that being said, there's a reason why I say it's speculation. Like, while that was said, that is definitely the EMCU-ification of the character. Right. As far as we know at this point, it is not official whether they're going to go with that or keep her as Nadia Pym. Like I said, because that issue ended, without giving anything. So the next time we see Nadia in whatever comic book she ends up in,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, we'll probably see then. But then it is not Marvel officially doing anything. It's just an MCU-ification at this point.
Right. So she was introduced as Nadia Pym was introduced as the secret daughter of Hank Pym and his first wife, Maria Trovaya, Years prior, Maria was kidnapped before Hank could learn she was pregnant, forcing Nadia to be raised in the same red room that produced the Black Widow.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And I feel like I said, there's just like, well, there's insinuation potential retcon in that because, like, you know, judging by what Agent 70 just said about the character and what I remember seeing, was like, yeah, that is a new thing. So, but also, if it does end up being that case, it's not surprising in eventual because, again, yes, this character was potentially made with that in mind anyway.
Right.
Anyway, guess what, folks? The Wolverine returns in his own comic book. So yes,
Wolverine.
Yep. So Wolverine slash Ghost Rider hybrid. Oh wait, there's actually something I forgot to put into the news. And I will try to find that while you're talking about the next one. But yeah, so he's gonna get his own comic book some point. I don't think it says when. Oh, here we go. Yes, May 29th, 2024, because they strike when the iron is hot, or the claws in this case. You're welcome. Yeah, next up.
You know what's funny is that at the end of the day, it's the visual that's super striking, right? The visual of a Ghost Rider possessed Wolverine is just very striking.
Yes.
Sometimes that's what drives, I hate to say this, sometimes that's what drives creativity.
Sure.
Anyway.
But it feels like such a 90s thing, though.
Yeah. All right. So Skybound releases Energon Universe Special 2024, #1 free comic book day preview. So you're going to discover 3 all-new stories from the Energon universe with stunning revelations for the worlds of Transformers, G.I. Joe, and Void Rivals. In this free comic book day book taking place, wow, that's soon, May 8th. Look at that.
And folks watching the video version are not seeing that at this particular time because they see me doing something, fiddling around with the sheet. But that's fine because we're going to go back to it right now. There we go.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, like I say, image is the image that is again that you're seeing right now. It is one of note because it is one that we've seen before in different ways. But hey, at least the first one. The second one, I would dare say, I'm not gonna go too much farther than that. But that second image, Agent 70, is basically kind of what I was talking about to you earlier when you asked about whether you had to read Void Rivals or not.
Right.
It's more stuff
Aliens.
like that. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I don't need to see too much more of this to know that I'm going to read that. May actually go and get a free copy. I mean, a physical copy of it. I don't know because I've been debating about going to get the physical run of Transformers books so far. We shall see how that happens, if that happens. Speaking of previews, Skybound's Transformers, if you want a 3-page preview of issue #6, which is the next issue, hey, the Transformers boards got you covered. I'm not going to click through the images. Actually, yes, I am. At least the cover one. There we go. If you're watching the video version, you can see that, but that as far as I'm going to go with it, because there's also like a couple other covers and a couple of pages coming off from the last the last page of this current issue. But yeah, you can see some folks in there. A good look cover. Next up though,
Alrighty, so apparently DC's newest God-blessed hero takes Shazam's powers to the next level. So, spoiler alert for Birds of Prey #6, Black Canary's sister Sin Lance. I just get more creative with the naming here. Has ascended to hero status with a new, stronger twist on Shazam's powers. So Sin Lance is now actually sharing her body with a god to become DC's newest superpowered hero. So you are Eric Masterson?
So no. Well, no. So I just read this like a few days ago because I've been keeping up with this book.
Okay.
This article's title is rather slightly hyper, I would dare say. I guess you could make a tie-in to the Shazam stuff, but that's not how they presented it at all. Because this character has none of that power that we've seen so far yet. But they are sharing the power with a, I guess, godlike being, I guess. So there has been no body switching. There's been none of that stuff as of the end of that. So I don't know where they're getting that Shazam tie-in. But that has not come to be the case yet, or at all, especially with the power set that, as far as I can tell, what this character or what the merging character had doesn't seem to be anything like Shazam's. Outside of the whole, hey, it's kind of a godlike being, but that's
Right.
that's a long way to go to make that stretch for here. So anyway.
Right.
Which I need to catch up with this. Green Lantern confirms Earth now stands alone in the DC universe, and I guess that is, I'm about to say, for me, having been reading the book, kind of confirmation of stuff that I've already seen in that issue, but this is kind of going further. So, spoiler alert for this week's issue of Green Lantern, which I won't go too far into, but basically, Earth's been on quarantine for a minute. As of this, I think it might go back to somewhere after Future State or something around that part. Oa is not in charge of the Lanterns. It's like some United Federation of Planets type situation that's going on. But apparently there's some folks that are trying to further isolate the Earth for some odd reason. And I guess that reason kind of may or may not come out in this current book, which I'm going to read at some point. But apparently, of course, along with that, seems to be a plot against the Lantern Corps, which is probably why Earth has been isolated. Because how many lanterns has the Earth produced at this point? A lot.
Lots.
Yes. So anyway, oh, actually, next up.
Alrighty, so this was some interesting news to get this week. DC and Marvel are set to reprint many, but not all, of their legendary crossover event comics. So they are going to jointly publish the DC versus Marvel Omnibus. So some of this is really cool. Some of this I own. Some of this I've collected in the past. So you're gonna get the DC versus Marvel Omnibus, right? It's gonna include stories from. It's gonna include. Batman, Captain America #1, Batman, Daredevil #1. It's a long list, but you're gonna get X-Men and Teen Titans, which is cool. Superman versus the Amazing Spider-Man #1, Superman Fantastic Four #1. A lot of this stuff is from the 90s. The Titans and X-Men from the 80s, Darkseid and Galactus from the 90s. You know, a lot of this stuff was happening in the post-speculation boom. Because the companies were really struggling, they needed to make some money, so they got together and did Amalgam. let's see, they're going to
Which
do a
we talked
DC
about here.
Marvel The Amalgam Age Omnibus, which collects the Amalgam series. Interestingly, though, no JLA Avengers yet. So they did do a reprint of JLA Avengers in honor of George Perez's passing. And when Perez announced his terminal diagnosis in 2021, the two publishers rushed a very limited run reprint for charity. It sold out almost instantly.
Mm-hmm.
The hope is that it will receive another new deluxe edition. I own the original deluxe edition, bought it when it first came out.
Right. I have a digital copy, but that's not the same. I remember when that happened, and I couldn't get a copy of that because it sold out so quickly. And I agree with whoever wrote this article and saying that that's one book that should never go out of print. But we know why it did.
Right. Because it's jointly published, and I own the original 4 issues. I have the original 4 issues signed by George Perez. I have the omnibus signed by George Perez. It's not the omnibus, but the big version, and it's really one of the things I'm very happy to have. And if it comes out again, I'll be happy to see it again. I may end up buying it again, which would suck, but what are you gonna do?
I mean, hey, I don't blame you. Like, I definitely will, but because I don't have a copy of it, but that's just me. But yeah, it says here that both omnibuses for DC versus Marvel and Marvel DC The Amalgam Age both hit August 6th. And I'll probably get those two.
I probably the DC versus Marvel one is interesting to me because I did not collect all of those individual events and issues.
Right.
I have a lot of them, but not all of them. So I might actually be in the market for that DC versus Marvel omnibus.
Right. And again, I think the Amalgam stuff, I may have a digital copy somewhere, or I did anyway. I don't know if I do, but that's not the same. So,
I mean, the Amalgam stuff, I have the DC versus Marvel miniseries, but I don't have all of the tie-ins.
Right. So, oh, you'll look. Stay tuned in August for when we forget about. We talked about this, and but it comes back up. Actually, we won't forget about that. But last but not least, the top 20 graphic novels from January 2024. Surprisingly, but not really surprisingly, Saga tops the list, which feels like a throwback to times before, when Saga was kind of still ongoing. Well, I guess it is still. So I guess it is still comes out every now and then, right?
What's that?
I don't think it's
come out. Wow.
I feel like I've seen an issue or two in the last couple of months.
I don't think it's come out in a little while.
So, I don't know. We'll see. But regardless, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin hardcover is in there, not surprisingly. Where the Body Was, Something Is Killing the Children, Volume 1, and World Tree, which I know we've talked about before in passing for some odd reason, is number 5. Won't go through this whole list, but there's some interesting, I guess, notables in here. From then. A little bit of enough Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's some DC stuff in here. Invincible, even because of that compendium, or that first compendium, and Nightwing of all things. So if you're watching the video version, you can see the list. Oh, and I guess there's another list apparently. Top 20 graphic novels by dollars, and the first one is Agent 70. Rom, the Original Years Omnibus, Volume 1 hardcover.
There it is.
All about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin. So, that 1-2 punch that everybody was expecting.
Of course. I still may end up tracking down that ROM, just because I don't own all those issues, and I might just get the omnibus just to have it.
Right.
I don't know. We'll see.
Right, and that first list that I was reading from, the top 5 was for top graphic novels by units. Like I said, and the second one was by dollar bill, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly that omnibus, which with that price, that's actually slightly kind of shocking. Also, it's like, okay, yeah, that thing costs a lot of money, but also it's I would guess sold really well. Must have for it to be number one on this list.
Yeah, listen, there's a demand for ROM stuff, right? There is. There's no other they must have had some inkling that was going to sell well.
I mean, given what potentially could be happening, if things we've been seeing are the case, we could be seeing a return of that character soon.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that is speculation on our part, so we don't know. Also, all three compendium books for Invincible are on that second list. The one by dollars. That one totally makes sense because Invincible is still kind of hot right now because of the show. And I'm sure there's probably some people who be like, "Oh, I hadn't read this, but I like the show. Let me get up on that." And there might be some fans just re-upping. I don't know. It happens, as we have just said. So yeah, so there is that, folks. That is the end of the news for this night. Can we get one last ad read?
Our last ad read of the night is for Amazon. Keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us and click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. If you shop at Amazon often, bookmark the link or add it as your homepage so that you can help the CSPN each time you order. We thank you for your support. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
And with that, folks, we come to another end of the show. We appreciate you coming out, whether live as we're recording this or later on in audio video form. We will be back next week on our regular time and place. Maybe, yes.
Maybe there is. What's funny about whatever pops up on our schedules, right? This week was a weather-related thing, believe it or not. This was not pre-planned. Next week may be pre-planned because, believe it or not, the new Demon Slayer episode is going to drop in theaters, and we might be. It's not a set thing yet. We might be doing a little bit of movie protocol and pushing our recording back to Friday, but we don't know yet. So we'll see.
So stay tuned to our socials for that, which are as followed. I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Needed on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. PCN_Dirt on Twitter. Popculture on Twitter. Popculture.com and all those umbrella sites therein. And Tim, DOGG98 on Twitter, CB Chron on Twitter, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account, the Kliq Nation on Twitter, that's TheKliqNation, thekliqnation.com. I don't know if he's over on Blue Sky because I know they just opened that up, by the way, for folks to where you don't need an invite anymore. So I guess have at it. Just don't be the reason why, the same reason why Twitter's in decline, but outside of who owns it now, but that's another thing. Anyway, also you can find Tim over at comicbook.com where he's over there writing his face off. You can find this here podcast on the Coastal Podcast Network at cspn.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast personal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal Podcast Network's SoundCloud page.
Make sure to click like, subscribe, and leave us all the positive 5-star reviews, especially on Apple Podcasts. It's really important over there, folks.
There we go. And of course, you can find us streaming normally every Thursday night on the YouTube channel of the Kliq Nation. That's youtube.com/thekliqnation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles.
Make sure to click like, subscribe, and hit that notification button so you know when we are on recording live and direct.
Nice. Actually, something you said earlier reminded me of something, but we'll talk about that afterwards. Oh, that was something I forgot to mention at the beginning of the show. So we possibly, or at least I would have possibly talked about that latest Peanut special that came out today or yesterday, excuse me, as of this recording. Welcome Home Franklin, that we talked about I think last week or whatever the case may be. It is out on Apple TV if you have access to that, or probably has some other wings that it might be out there also as well. Didn't get a chance to watch it yet, but I will watch it and maybe talk about it next week if there's something. But I've been looking forward to checking it out. Just haven't had a chance to check it out just yet. So we'll talk about that possibly on the next show. And with that, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
I love it when a plan comes together.